This is a Czech university, and this is a Czech university campus. This is a Czech university, and this is a Czech university campus. Okay, well, not technically, but it is true that when you go to university in Czechia, you often have castles just around the corner. It's not really like that in my home country. I have attended university in both the US and Czechia, and in this video, I'm going to give you my impressions of the differences between the two, with a little help from some of my viewers who've also studied abroad. In the US, the words college and university are almost interchangeable. Both college and universities are academic institutions. A college is just usually a little smaller. But we don't really say, where'd you go to university? We say, where'd you go to college? In Czechia, a college is more like a trade school, focused on graduating students skilled in a particular industry. A university is the academic institution you go to obtain a broader education in many subjects, or to become a part of a profession. In this video, I'll be talking about the academic institutions. When you graduate from university in the United States, they never let you go. Alumni often get together to root for the school's sports teams, and the university sends you updates about all of their other alumni's achievements. My husband's alma mater sends him requests for donations all the way here in Prague. His university, Syracuse, hosts networking events all over the world. They even had one here in Prague where we met a lot of great people that we still hang out with. One of the mistakes that Hansa and I made after getting our Masters of Law here in Prague from Charles University Law Faculty was not really tapping into the network of alumni. Most of our international classmates returned to their home country after graduation, and we didn't really know how to reach out to other alumni who came before or after us. Networking and making connections in your field is so important after graduation, even years into your career. And that's why I am super excited to announce that I will be moderating a fantastic event hosted by the Czechia Alumni Program, meant to connect international alumni and international students here in Czechia and help them make the most out of their careers. It's happening on the evening of April the 27th right here in Prague. Take it from me, it's never too early to start expanding your professional network. So if you're an international alumni or student looking to connect with others who you share common ground with, you should not miss this event. There will be refreshments and guided networking and a moderated discussion with successful graduates, prizes, live music, and best of all, an entire network of other international alumni and students for you to meet, including me. I'll put the info in the description box below and the link where you can register. Be sure to pass this on to your other international friends. You won't want to miss this event. I look forward to meeting you there. In this video, I talked about how kids in Czechia have to specialize pretty early in their academic life, even as young as 11 or 12. Because by the time you apply to university, you must select an area to study and then you join that faculty. At Charles University, here in Prague, there are several faculties and you almost exclusively take your classes within that faculty. By the end of American university study, you will also have a specialty, or what we call a major, but in general, you don't really focus on your major until the last 2 years of your bachelor's degree. Before that, you are required to study a broad range of topics. So I was a history major, but I had to take oceanography, philosophy, geology, and literature. This system helps the student discover what they want to major in. In fact, I switched my major from fine art to history just by filling out some paperwork and taking a few extra classes to catch up. In the Czech system, if you want to change your field of study, you have to apply to an entirely different faculty, sometimes at a different school. On the one hand, I like the flexibility of the American system, which gives you time to plan out your future profession. But on the other hand, in the Czech system, I would imagine you probably get more serious about your studies earlier and you're better prepared for the job market upon graduation. Also, American universities are expensive. I'll get to the costs in a minute, but if you think that a single class can cost around $4,000 US, that's a lot of money to waste on studying a topic you're not interested in and won't help you in your future career. So in the US, my course grades were typically 30% for a midterm written exam, 30% for a 10-page research paper, and 40% for a final written exam. At Charles University Law School, our grades were determined almost 100% by our final exam. So if you slack off studying throughout the semester, you have very little chance of passing the course. Bilgener is studying finance and accounting here in Czechia, and she said that in her home country of Turkey, projects are much more individual-based, while in Czechia, there are many group projects. Which is great if you have a responsible group, but not so great if you have a group that's not taking it seriously. We did not have any group projects at Charles University Law faculty that I remember, which is a shame because Hansa is very smart and I would have made him do all my work for me. In US universities, professors devote a large portion of their time to teaching, helping students at office hours, etc. But at bigger universities, you often don't get an actual professor until your last 2 years of study. 40% of university teaching jobs in the US are actually done by adjunct professors who earn very low wages, who often have to teach more than a normal workload just to get a living wage, with no job security or benefits such as health insurance. Personally, I was taught by many graduate students when I was an undergraduate, and I didn't get the benefit of smaller classes taught by a full professor until I was in my 3rd or 4th year of studies. Edward from the UK said he found that his Czech lecturers were first and foremost professionals in their field, and teachers second. On one hand, this is great because they can pass on their real-world experience, but according to him, it also meant they weren't as available outside of the classroom. When I was at Charles Law faculty here in Czechia, one of our law professors was the Czech member of the European Parliament, and one of our guest professors was a justice on the Supreme Administrative Court. We had some classes with rotating professors, and each offered the specialty that they practiced in the real world. So it felt like you experienced more real-world knowledge than just theory taught by a grad student whose real focus was getting their own PhD. I could do a whole video about exams. Let me set the stage. In the US, we have finals week. So I'm taking 5 finals in 1 week. And so you don't sleep, you eat nothing but candy and soda and coffee, and you live in the library. And when it's time to take your final, you walk like zombies in pajamas into a written exam. And if you studied well, you write the exam for 3 hours straight or until your hand falls off. Czechia could not have been more opposite. First of all, you do not dare wear pajamas, no matter how late you stayed up. Our professors sent a few of the students home to change because they weren't wearing suits. A suit to an exam. Thankfully, at Charles, we had our exams spaced out over a few weeks, if I recall. So there was plenty of time to study, but these exams are oral exams. I had never experienced anything like this in my life. So picture it. You go into the professor's private office, and there are 3 of them sitting there on the sofa. There are candles lit. It's completely silent, so there's a soft ringing in your ear. It is mortifying. And then they hand you a basket with these little questions cut out, and you have to choose a couple of them and then think about them for about a minute and then answer. And they're allowed to ask you questions if they don't fully understand your answer. I personally think that oral exams are fantastic, in theory. I wish I'd participated in speech and debate clubs earlier in my academic career, but when you come from a culture of written exams and essays, it can be a shock to the system. One of the things I loved about studying in Czechia, and particularly in Prague, is that you don't really have a typical campus like we think of in the US. The city is your campus. I think this gets students mentally prepared for the working world. When they step out of their faculty, they're immediately thrust into the streets full of professionals earning a living. Even at Charles University, which is, by the way, the oldest university in Central Europe, it is spread out all over the city. Most American universities live in an encompassing protective bubble. We call it the college experience. My entire undergraduate campus was separate from the city and from the residents around it. In fact, I slept here, ate here, went to classes here, went to the doctor here, hung out here, worked out here, did my hobbies here, and studied here. And in all that time, I never had to accidentally bump into any real adults. US students rarely interact with the surrounding communities, and it keeps them in this bubble outside of the real world. Vladimira, a Czech student who studied in the US, said she felt like the students there were less mature because they were kept in this university bubble. And when she had studied in Czechia, she had already been functioning like an adult in society. Finally, after all the minor differences of the type of exams and social life are put aside, here's what really matters to a graduating student starting their young professional life. How much money is or isn't in their bank account. Now, I'm sure you've all heard of skyrocketing cost of education in the United States. In fact, most US graduates I talked to said they were still paying off their student debt 10 to 15 years after graduation. Can you imagine taking out loans during your university days that would leave you in debt for decades as you're starting your life? Debt that can exceed tens of thousands of dollars. This is where the Czech system just rocks. If you study in the Czech language, university is free. Not just for citizens, for anyone. You cannot beat that. There are also many paid programs at Czech universities which are taught entirely in English, at a fraction of the cost of a US university. How about an MBA or a Master's of Law for around $6,000 for the entire degree? The average cost of a master's degree in the United States is $62,000. A bachelor's degree in the US can cost $30,000 per year. That's $120,000 for the entire degree. The fact that the Czech university system doesn't burden its graduates with debt means they have more opportunities, more mobility in the job market, and even have the freedom to be entrepreneurial immediately upon graduation. This is not only better for the student, it's better for the entire society. PhD in CZ said that the University of Ostrava was her best choice for affordability, cost of living, reputation, and quality of life. What is she getting her master's in? English philology in Czechia. How cool is that? The college experience in America is great. It's a phase of early adulthood where you're free to explore and pursue different interests and enjoy yourself and meet tons of people. But you're gonna pay for it. You will be paying for it until you are in your 40s. The US university system has ballooned into this massive marketing scheme, with universities competing, promising fun and fitness and adventure and lifelong friendships, in addition to academics. And when you realize that you're often being taught and graded by other students just a few years more advanced than you have to ask, is the benefit really worth it? The Czech university system is more about education and value for your dollar or crown. They're not selling you a gym membership and a social club membership and season tickets to an amateur sports league. At the end of it all, I think the Czech system does a better job of setting its graduates up for professional success without burdening them with decades of debt. Have you gone to a university in Czechia or abroad? Tell us about your experiences in the comments below. And don't forget to register for the event on April 27th. I look forward to seeing you there. Uvidíme se příště. Ahoj!